Jimmy and JoAnne have essentially become our lifeline for information in North Africa and the Middle East. How are you guys doing tonight?
Putting one foot after the other, Jason. So many things happening on so many areas.
One foot after the other, Jimmy? Sorry, you were saying.
So many things happening all over. I mean, it's amazing how the creeps, the New World Order Satanists have absolutely opened up all the valves, and they're doing every nasty trick they can everywhere. And it's really tough.
JoAnne, how are you doing?
I'm hanging in there. I'm disgusted at where we live right now in Texas, because Texas is a free state, literally, and they told a bunch of lies to everybody and made everybody wear masks and shut down. There's 254 counties in Texas. 53 counties have between 1,000 to 300 cases. There's like 25 counties that have a lot, and that's Dallas, or not a lot, I would say 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, I don't know, cases, where there's millions of people being tested. But you go out to the other counties, 201 counties have less than 300 cases, and many of them 0 cases.
But these are just tests.
But they're shut down.
Yeah.
These counties are shut down. This is ridiculous. This is beyond. The counties should just say, sorry, not going to do it. We're not going to do it.
Some cities
are. Abilene, Texas has said, sorry, we're not going to shut our bars because there's no proof that bars cause the COVID. There's no proof at all.
So much proof that the masks are not only harmful but could be deadly. So much proof that these tests are only testing for antibodies, that if you've ever had a cold, if you've ever had a flu, it's going to show positive. So it's an absolute phony bunch of crap. And because of that, they've locked down the world, as I've said many times, to cover up the financial collapse. And it becomes painfully evident more and more every day that the truth is nowhere to be found in Washington, D.C., and any of the local governments or anybody. They're all in the bag to promote this. They're all either getting paid or they're all getting threatened or something. But worldwide, we're seeing the same thing. And when you see a country push back, then they get attacked by a World Health Organization, etc. So It's a real sad state of affairs, and everybody needs to wake up, pay attention, and start to push back.
There's a guy who has put out a video. He's an attorney, and he's filing a mass tort claim against governors, against city leaders, against government. He said it's not a class action. It's not a class action. It's a mass tort claim for crimes against the people of the United States, against the Constitution.
Ooh, I like that guy.
Yeah.
He's real sharp.
I put his, when we have our show on Patreon, I'll have the video there.
Great.
It's real interesting. People are starting to stand up. There's a lawsuit against Adolph Abbott here in Texas.
Governor in Texas.
By a doctor has filed a lawsuit, and he said it's against our constitutional rights, and there is no proof that there's any. He said when you've got 0.008% deaths, this is not a crisis. This is not anything. This is less than a normal flu season.
Wow.
And he's filed a lawsuit. There's other lawsuits now being filed about masks being worn. There's all kinds of lawsuits being filed here now.
We're being told by someone using the name Richard Scratcher that Leicester, UK has been put back into lockdown. It's a questionable name. I'm not sure if that's a serious comment, but we're hearing about a lot of municipalities being put back into lockdown. We've been hearing this mantra of the second wave. Andrew Cuomo has been saying that we're not even out of the first wave yet. Yeah. I mean, he really speaks to the audience like some sort of a thug, condescending and mocking and just telling everybody what to do by decree as if he's the king. I don't think he's aware of this whole concept of the Constitution and how laws need to be made. And if you guys saw my visit back to the hippie commune that is now the New York City Chaz, the City Hall Autonomous Zone, none of the police officers over there had any information about why our actually peaceful protest of standing there and talking about the Constitution and our rights, that was shut down right away. But these guys who want to roll around handing out baked ziti and all kinds of filthy food, sitting next to each other, clogging up a public park, That's totally okay.
because they're part of the agenda and you're not.
Right.
I mean, it's so painfully evident. You know, here's a piece of information that everybody should listen to. The number of tests being done now compared to what tests were done 3 months ago is at least 10 times, and in some areas 100 times
More tests.
more. Yet the percentage of those confirmed with the antibodies, and it's not COVID-19. They have no way in hell to test for COVID-19. That's an absolute lie. But to have the antibodies against a coronavirus, which you've got a million of them coursing around through your body right now.
Yeah.
It's the common flu. It's the common cold. If you've ever had a flu shot, then you're going to have those antibodies in your system. So they're testing for antibodies, not for a specific flu. But the number of tests has gone up at least 10 times, and in some places 100 times. So the percentage of those confirmed with the antibodies remains the same, but the number obviously is going to go up. So if you're testing 100 people and you got 2 with a positive test, now you go to 1,000 and you got 20 with the same positive test, the percentage is staying the same, but the huge numbers, and the reason for that's their game. More people are being tested, and more people are being found with the antibodies.
This is why they
for
say
coronavirus.
this
Big
is why,
friggin' deal.
This is why they say a lot of people won't show symptoms. It's because they just have antibodies in their system to the coronavirus. It doesn't mean they are going to get it. It doesn't mean they have it.
Right.
It just means they've got antibodies. And they have changed the mantra so many times. The narrative have changed so many times. People are so confused. Their biggest tool is fear. They want to scare everybody to death. But the point is, we're all going to die sometime. Are we going to be afraid of getting a flu? And we die? This is crazy. Why are people going around like with their hair on fire?
You're not going to go to the park with your kids. You're not going to play baseball. You're going to stay jailed in your home, hovering and
See, this is
scared.
a lie. There are doctors and nurses that have come out in Texas now and said this is a lie. There are not all kinds of cases. We have open beds in Dallas. We have open.
Well, sorry to interrupt, but this is a woman that I've spoken to. I asked her if she is at all related to Lawrence Fink, who is the CEO of BlackRock, and I'll tell you, there looks like there's a familial resemblance there. I didn't mean to interrupt you there, JoAnne, but when you were saying that fear is their primary weapon, I think the New York Times is their secondary weapon, because this seems remarkably similar to what we were seeing about our friend Dr. Colleen Smith at Elmhurst Hospital. This was first sold to the American public as the epicenter of the outbreak in the epicenter in the United States, which was New York. And they made a big deal out of what was going on there at Elmhurst Hospital. I haven't spoken about this too much because I've been working kind of behind the scenes trying to get in touch with the official media office of Elmhurst Hospital. I've now had several phone calls with Atia Butler, a woman who is the external, I don't have her title in front of me, but she's the person in charge of public messaging from the hospital, who's now hung up on me 3 times. I've never used foul language or raised my voice with the woman. I will be releasing these calls at some time. I'm asking her questions like, what is the hospital's official policy on staff members who are diagnosed with COVID-19? Because we may recall that after that bizarre New York Times multimedia piece featuring Dr. Colleen Smith came out, I was questioning Dr. Colleen Smith quite publicly. She went to the University of Chicago, and she basically has refused to answer if she's had any interaction with Bernardine Dorn or Michelle Obama. And, this really kind of, for many people, kicked off the virus hysteria. People might remember that Dr. Smith went through the room. We've got patients wearing sneakers. No one would be wearing sneakers in a hospital bed. There's a lot of things about this that seem very anomalous. And, sorry, I didn't have it switched in. Nobody would be wearing sneakers. It looks staged. Yeah. See that?
Jason, the woman you're talking to at the
no, she's hung up. She's refused to answer the questions.
You know why? Because she's a bull shipper. That's what her job is. Ship the bull.
I'm ready to reveal this, Jimmy. I've contacted the New York State Attorney General today. They have a department that specifically handles Medicaid fraud, and I'm not accusing the hospital of Medicaid fraud, but there are all these anomalous issues that they refuse to answer. And if they're going to just hang up the phone when I ask them, the thing I was getting at is the New York Times tweeted after my public questions to Dr. Colleen Smith, they tweeted out that Dr. Smith was diagnosed as COVID positive and exhibiting mild symptoms. I feel that they did that as a sort of an effort to get me to back off. But 9 days later, Dr. Smith was tweeting that she was seeing patients in the ICU. So I wanted to ask the hospital what their official policy is on allowing contaminated doctors into the ICU. And since they've refused to answer for 3 months, I think maybe it's time to begin a formal investigation into what's going on there at Elmhurst Hospital. We've had an out-of-town nurse now directly accuse them of murder. And there's been a second hospital in the New York Health and Hospital Systems also accused of murder. That's Lincoln Hospitals. I think as a New York City and a New York State taxpayer, I need to know what's going on with my tax dollars relative to these hospitals.
This is true for every city, Jason, in the United States, because hospitals have been taken over by the state. When this COVID thing was done, remember we told you what happened in Texas. Senator Bob Hall said what they did is they made 2 categories when this started. Number 1, people who have COVID into the hospital. Number 2, everybody else was in that category. Didn't matter who they were, cannot go into a hospital.
So occupancy in the hospitals
went down to 0. And people had people who were sick, who were injured, couldn't get into a hospital.
500-room hospital had 12 people in it. And of course, the nurses were let go and everything. So, what they've done is they've emptied the hospitals. Normal patients are not being seen, and only people with the flu get in.
Yeah, and he said there was a
look at this. Look at this. I just was looking up total hospital occupancy in Texas, and it brought me to some official, this is Texas Medical Center, and it says, look at that. Error.
Yeah.
404.
Error. Yeah, they shut the site down.
TMC.edu coronavirus updates, total ICU bed occupancy, and there's an error. Interesting.
Yeah.
Because there aren't any.
Yeah, there's a lot of doctors that are exposing it here now in Texas. And remember what Senator Hall said? He said they showed him a graph of these COVID cases on the part 1 of their categories, the first, and he said, where's part 2? And they said, what do you mean part 2? He said, how many people died, got sick, or got worse from not being allowed into it? They didn't have a graph for that.
Right.
People,
and they had told him that there would be 100,000 deaths in Texas by May 1st or something. The total last week was 2,002 or 2,200.
No, it was 2,250.
2,250.
I think it's 2,300 now, but that's 0.008.
So the number of 100,000 was a little bit off.
Well, but in 2018, they're counting this virus 2019 and 2019 and 2020. They're counting it for 2 years. In 2018 in Texas, the flu deaths were close to 11,000 or 12,000. There was no shutdown. There was no big ooh-ah thing. It was a normal flu season.
Well, and now we're getting into a segment of this, JoAnne, where Moonshine Girl is here with us in the comments saying she's being forced to take a test tomorrow because she works in a nursing home. So now people are being subjected to that. We've heard about contaminated tests. We've heard about false positives.
That just came into Texas, that a bunch of the tests are fake, false positives. There's a big mess on that. There's a nurse who put out a statement, and she said, please share this everywhere. She was in Lubbock, I think, Lubbock, Texas. And she said when this first started, she works in a lab that does the tests. And she said when it first started, we were getting about 10 tests a day. That's all. She said we got about one or two out of that 10, tests that were positive. She said that now we're getting 100 because the state started funding the tests. And she said we're getting about 10 out of 100 or 11 out of 100 are positive. So she said nothing has changed.
Right.
She said
just more tests.
But Saturday after the lockdown, they got notice that the state of Texas was stopping funding the tests. She said, so now you're going to see that the lockdown worked.
Because there won't be any more testing. No more positives.
The state stopped funding the testing.
It's so obvious. I mean, everybody's got to be brain dead to be eating this crap. And here's something else. in several foreign countries, they have been analyzing the tests that are coming in from World Health, because World Health is demanding they use their tests and their equipment. The tests are already contaminated when they receive them.
Right.
And this is in many, many, many countries. There's already been one world leader killed over this because he said, we're not going to use these tests.
Burundi.
Wow. Yeah. He was killed.
He was killed after he refused. He threw out the World Health Organization. The next day he died. He was a young man. He was in his 30s or 40s.
Wow. And I know everybody is very interested in this. Certainly Texas has become kind of the new focus, because it seems to me in this new round of whatever it is that's going on, it seems that states like Texas and countries like Brazil and Sweden that defied the initial lockdown order are now being presented as, oh, look at this. These guys didn't lock down and now everybody's getting sick. So that seems like a pretty obvious play to me. We're going to talk about this some more, but we've got some other topics we're going to discuss as well. I know that most people are aware, but I like to remind everybody that every Monday night we have a sponsor exclusive show on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty, patreon.com/crowdsource the truth, and subscribestar to the .com/crowdsource the truth. It's a lot to say. I sometimes get ahead of myself. But people are also going to want to visit LibyanWarTheTruth.com. This is Jimmy and JoAnne's website. They've just updated it. The underpinnings are now supercharged with Drupal and all kinds of stuff that I knew nothing about before JoAnne told me about it. And the site is super snappy. If you've been on it before, the performance is greatly improved and the layout is improved. It's a great time to get on there and order the DVD that Jimmy and JoAnne put together with photographs and videos that they assembled while they were in Libya. The DVD is $15 and it's only $5 to ship it to you. But if you sponsor Jimmy and JoAnne on Patreon, you're going to get free shipping on the DVD. Just in the last few minutes we have here, JoAnne, do you want to tell us what we're going to discuss tonight in the show?
Yeah, we're going to talk about Libya and what's happening with Libya, because it's become a central focus in the world for terrorism. Ever since 2011, the country was blown up, and Erdogan has stepped in there with his unelected UN-appointed government that actually ran out into their mandate ran out in 2017. But they're still there because they have all these terrorists from Turkey and Syria controlling that government. Well, everybody's starting to wake up about these terrorists and what Erdogan wants to do. He wants to take Libya. He wants to control the oil crescent. He wants the oil and gas from Libya. And
he says he'll conquer, he'll reestablish the Ottoman Empire.
How do you guys like this headline? What is this thing?
What does it say? Erdogan.
It says, he's the only honest player in Libya. Who controls AA.com.tr? This is obviously a Turkish website.
This has got to be a Turkish website, because there's nobody. Turkey's going to lose. They're going to lose because France has now got their carriers in the Mediterranean. Egypt is now armed with the S-400 anti-missile.
The Russian ABM system, anti-ballistic missile.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, they're really defensive, but they're a defensive system, Jason. But let me tell you how nasty the U.S. is. Netanyahu is butthole buddy with Erdogan and Trump. And so Netanyahu went to Putin and said, do not deliver the S-400s to Egypt because we'll make it very profitable for you personally. He turned him down. Then Trump went to Putin and Trump offered him $1 billion in gold delivered to whatever account he wanted if he would not deliver the S-400s to Egypt, because they don't want Egypt, they don't want Libya to be they don't want to be able to defend themselves against all the missiles and everything. They're in Turkey because it's very difficult for Turkey to launch attacks into Libya across the Mediterranean. And since now then Europe and other countries are stepping in there to block the Mediterranean away from the Turkish vessels and aircraft and everything, he's going to have to fight from Turkey.
Well, so
having these S-400s in Egypt is a devastating blow to Turkey. But Trump to offer him $1 billion in gold after Netanyahu did, that shows what color our president is. He's an absolute criminal.
Well, let me, before you say anything else, let me say that the reason they don't, this was the Egyptian tribes who gave us this information, and they said not only did Putin ship them the S-400s, but he also sent them the Sukhoi fighter jets.
28s or something. One of
I
their
think they were
latest models.
57s.
Oh, were they? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and they're the latest models. They may even be able to fly without a pilot at some point.
Wow.
But they're not drones; they're planes. But anyway, so he upped his bounty to Egypt when they. Why would you listen, Trump? The U.S. has sanctions against Russia forever. They've been attacking Russia forever. Why would you go with your enemy who has been attacking you forever, saying nasty things about you forever? Why would you do what he asked you to do? You know, I mean, it's pretty ballsy for Trump to call Putin and say, I don't want you to give these people any anti-S-400 missiles.
I would say that the opposition to President Trump has been fairly successful in limiting his ability to improve or expand U.S.-Russia relations at all during the 3.5 years of his presidency. They have effectively prevented Trump from doing anything productive with Putin.
But Jason, Erdogan's been the attack dog for the United States for the entire Trump presidency and Obama before that. He remains in that position in Syria and other places. And, it's a shame that the United States has so groveled itself to get in bed with this slimy character Erdogan and all the others before him. We support ISIS, we support Ansar al-Sharia, we support Al-Qaeda. The U.S. does. When they get in a bind, the U.S. air flights them out. That's been going on forever. It's time that stopped. U.S. people don't want that, and this needs to be exposed. It's terrible. But I mean, we're going to get on to the paid show pretty quick before I have a blowout.
We do not want you to have a blowout, Jimmy, but we will be starting in under 10 minutes on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. It is a great way for people to support Jimmy and JoAnne and to keep this show going. So we're going to be on in just a few minutes. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. We've got some videos to show everybody. We've got a presentation that JoAnne has put together. So hopefully everybody will join us over there. Give everybody just a few minutes before we make the transition, and we will see everybody
willing, we'll
there.
have some banking. We'll have some banking updates too at the tail end if time allows.
Time will allow, Jimmy, because it is under our control. Not time, but the duration of the broadcast is. That's a good thing. We'll see everybody over there in just a few minutes. Thanks for watching.